As you know, the Geneva Conventions outlaw attacks on cultural objects and places of worship. Our own DoD war manual discusses protection of cultural property. So why is the president threatening Iran with war crimes?
And that is exactly what Donald Trump did over the weekend in a series of tweets. He threatened Iran if Iran had the audacity to retaliate against him and his assassination of the country's top military commander. Now, that was a story that broke last week, but unfortunately the situation has further devolved over the weekend. Now, in a series of tweets, Trump said, quote, "Iran is talking very boldly about targeting certain USA assets as revenge for our ridding the world of their terrorist leader who had just killed an American and badly wounded many others, not to mention all of the other people he had killed over his lifetime, including recently hundreds of Iranian protesters. He was already attacking our embassy and preparing for additional hits in other locations. Iran has been nothing but problems for many years. Let this serve as a warning that if Iran strikes any Americans or American assets, we have targeted," and he's very specific here, "52 Iranian sites representing the 52 American hostages taken by Iran many years ago, some at a very high level and important to Iran and the Iranian culture. And those targets and Iran itself will be hit," and this is of course in all caps, "will be hit very fast and very hard. The USA wants no more threats." So again, this is in response to Iran threatening the United States following Donald Trump's decision to assassinate the top commander of Iran's military. Now, in order for the executive branch to unilaterally go about doing something like that, they need to prove that the target was an imminent threat. Our intelligence has not proven that. The Trump administration has not proven that. And while, of course, everyone knows that Soleimani, the target who was assassinated, was a bad guy, the fact of the matter is there are many bad guys throughout the world that we do business with. And in this case, we need to think about strategy and how Donald Trump's actions could lead to a domino effect and further escalate tensions among the United States and the Iranian government.
Yeah, it's sort of like we're playing a game of how many war crimes can we commit in 1 week, basically. They trotted out like almost an insultingly feeble case for why they desperately needed to kill him at that time in that place. That has fallen apart in as many possible ways as an excuse could. And we saw that New York Times reporting over the weekend about how about a week before, there had been a desire from Trump to have some sort of reprisal for the attack that killed the American defense contractor. And so they gave him a range of options, with the most extreme being killing him. And he originally turned it down, and he was thinking about other things. And then he got mad when he saw the protesters outside of the American embassy, and then decided to go with that option. None of that is consistent with, he was about to do something, we had to take him out.
Correct.
Then why would you go through all that rigmarole leading up to it? You wouldn't do any of that. And so it's almost like he's trying to distract us from the crime of launching us into a potential war in an unjustified fashion without alerting Congress by promising to commit future crimes.
That's exactly
that almost certainly he'll be pushed into the position of having to make good on, because the idea that Iran isn't going to do anything seems hard to believe. And so when they do, he's now made this promise. He either has to back off the brink or commit further war crimes.
And knowing how Donald Trump easily gets goaded into extreme positions, like for instance, assassinating the top commander for Iran's military, this doesn't look good. But I wanna be clear, that right now there's a lot of speculation as to how Iran will retaliate. I'm not saying to avoid taking those threats seriously, but we don't know how Iran is going to retaliate. We don't know if they're gonna retaliate through direct military action, or if they're gonna just rely on what they've been doing, which is attacking the United States through their proxies. Now, let me give you some details into why this would be a crime, a war crime, if Donald Trump and the US government attacked or targeted some of these cultural sites. Destroying cultural sites could violate international agreements such as the 1954 Hague Convention for the Protection of Cultural Property in the event of armed conflict. With that said, George Stephanopoulos talked to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and asked about it. And here's Mike Pompeo making a very unconvincing argument about how the Trump administration is not going to break any laws.
Yeah, we'll behave lawfully. We'll behave inside the system. We always have, and we always will, George. You know that. The president was getting to this point. In the past, previous administrations had allowed Shia militias to take shots at us, and at best, we responded in theater, trying to challenge and attack everybody who was running around with an AK-47 or a piece of indirect artillery. We've made a very different approach. We've told the Iranian regime enough. You can't get away with using proxy forces and think your homeland will be safe and secure. We're going to respond against the actual decision makers, the people who are causing this threat from the Islamic Republic of Iran.
And
that's not what Trump said.
That's not what Trump said. So we're going to show you some evidence. We've already shown you some, but I'm going to show you further evidence showing that the messaging, as always, is inconsistent between Donald Trump and members of his own cabinet. And luckily, George Stephanopoulos did push back a little bit in this interview. And so let's take a quick look at that.
So just to be clear, when the president said he had 52 Iranian sites, including sites important to the Iranian culture, that wasn't accurate?
George, I've seen what we are planning in terms of the target set. I'm sure the Department of Defense is continuing to develop options. The American people should know that every target that we strike will be a lawful target.
And again, I want to reiterate what Donald Trump initially tweeted was very conflicted with what Mike Pompeo said in that interview. And then later, when Trump was asked again about his threat to target 52 cultural sites in Iran, he decided to double down. And he said, quote, "They're allowed to kill our people. They're allowed to torture and maim our people. They're allowed to use roadside bombs and blow up our people. And we're not allowed to touch their cultural sites. It doesn't work that way."
Yeah, that's exactly how it works.
I also want to be clear, the way that some of the war hawks in the United States present this makes it seem as though the United States is never the aggressor, that we don't kill and maim people in other countries. But if you thought that Obama's drone wars were terrible, get a load of how Trump has expanded those drone wars and has further assisted Saudi Arabia in the genocide in Yemen. So don't buy into this notion that the United States is full of like these peacemakers that are just trying to push for democracy around the world. In reality, the United States, under the Trump administration especially, has been the aggressor, which has led to the flare-up in tensions between the US and Iran, and now Iraq as well.
Yeah. And think about what a bizarre frame of mind you have to be, what a bizarre worldview where you say, and we're not allowed to touch their cultural sites? Why do you want to touch their cultural? What is the purpose of a war? And in a war, what is the purpose of military action? He seems to believe it's, oh, they have something and I want to break it. They have this thing that they like and I want to break it. Not I want to degrade their military ability, take away their ability to stop our planes from occupying their airspace, or take out soldiers that are advancing on our position. No tactical or strategic value to it. He just wants to break something. And so when I go on Twitter and I say that this is, like, Fox is not just interested in a war with Iran, they're interested in an explicit war on Islam. This is what that looks like. It's, oh, this Islamic country has things that they like that are important to their culture and their religion. We want to break them. It doesn't matter if it has anything to do with their military. And by the way, the thing about hitting a cultural site is that's not where generals hang out. That's where civilians hang out.
Right.
And so what they are saying is we want to kill civilians and do damage to them. It is a terroristic threat. That's all it is. And all across Fox News, it has been an encouraging, they could not be more excited at the possibility that he is going to dispense with these rules of engagement and just start wildly killing civilians, which is something he's been promising to do since he was running for the presidency.
Now, look, John, you and I and other hosts at TYT are very critical of people who just willy-nilly throw out words like terrorism. And you just used the word terrorism in regard to what Donald Trump is threatening here. Now, I think that terroristic threat is the perfect way to describe it, because the United States government was very critical of ISIS when it did the exact same thing, when it actually carried it out in Syria. So I want to take you to a video featuring archaeologist Michael Dante, and he talked about how ISIS was destroying cultural sites in Syria, and he explains why they were doing that. Take a look.
Sources on the ground in Tadmor claim that there will be more of these ISIL destructions so that they can gain media attention and to take away some of the attention from their recent failures in other areas in Iraq and Syria.
You think some of it does have to do with failures? That's why they might be doing this?
Yes, I think sometimes that they're trying to control the message and to divert attention away from territorial losses to Kurdish forces in the north and in some other theaters in the conflict zone. It serves as a very powerful ideological tool for the organization for recruiting, and it's a form of psychological warfare, and ISIL believes that this type of destruction of pre-Islamic heritage is primarily targeting the West.
So when you are threatening to do to a sovereign country what ISIS did to Syria and Iraq, I mean, what does that make you? And so like you have no moral leg to stand on, and every action that Trump has taken since the beginning of his administration in regard to foreign policy related to Iran has done nothing but escalate tensions and lead us closer and closer to war. In fact, his decision, and look, again, I just wanna be clear, right? All of these Democratic lawmakers are like, oh no, Soleimani was a bad guy, he was a bad guy. They always have to preface their statement with, he's a bad guy. Yeah, we got it, everyone knows he's a bad guy. There's a ton of bad guys throughout the world, but you have to separate that from, sound strategic foreign policy. And what Trump did has escalated the potential of full-blown war with a country that has military capability that is underestimated in our media right now, okay? 4 times the size of the Iraq military, their weaponry is much more advanced. This is not an easy thing that we would engage in. The only way this would be a quick war, as it's being sold to the American people in mainstream media, is if we were willing to drop a nuclear bomb on Iran.
Which he has expressed interest in multiple times.
Which is terrifying, right? So this is a disaster, and again, Trump isn't really thinking about strategy. He didn't even know who Soleimani was prior to winning the election.
Or probably the strike.
Or even right now. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he was still, in the dark about it. But I really want to drive this point home. Here's a CNN video from August of 2015 where they're talking about the destruction of cultural sites in Syria and Iraq done by ISIS.
The Bell Temple, dating back to the 1st century when Palmyra, the city of palms, was the crossroads between Roman and Persian empires. Yet it is no more, the UN has confirmed. This image is from last week when ISIS leveled a neighboring temple, Bal-Shamin, named after a Phoenician god. They had long threatened to drag this vital trace of irreplaceable history into their world of destruction, and did with crude devices. ISIS's obsession with destroying what is dear to all other cultures has not stopped at property here. ISIS, many say, are in an obsessive competition with themselves to outdo their last ghastly outrage. It was with some relish they released a video of their elaborate dismembering of the Iraqi city of Nimrud and of Mosul's museum. Millennia of thought and endurance wiped away by a culture worshipping death and the seconds of dark fascination they can conjure with videos on social media.
I mean, we can just replace ISIS with, what Trump is threatening to do in Iran. How is that situation going to make anyone safer?
No, and we know it hasn't. I mean, we know that this has materially made it more difficult for us to fight with what remains of ISIS. They don't care. All their stated foreign policy goals, they say that's what they want, but even though this is producing the opposite, but they don't care. They say they don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. They don't care. This actually makes it more likely that they'll have one. They care. It's the same as it's trolling people on Twitter. It's, I want to cause pain, that's it. I want to see people I don't like being hurt. And if it's, insulting someone on Twitter, if it's bombing a cultural site, if it's killing civilians, it's all the same. We're not supposed to call these people deplorable. If Trump said, I will kill hundreds of thousands of civilians, Pete Hegseth would be defending him on Fox News the next day. All of them would. He wouldn't lose anyone. He campaigned saying, I'm gonna kill the family members of suspected terrorists. He promised on the campaign trail he would commit war crimes. He started doing it as soon as he got in office. He's surrounded himself. His new sidekick is a guy who he wouldn't know if he had not committed war crimes. That's all it is. His son posed with that gun that had the Crusader helm like carved into it. They want crusades, that's what they want.
And all it's gonna do is, first of all, it not only breaks international laws, but it makes US troops abroad less safe. It deteriorates relationships that we've built with allies abroad, including with the Iraqi government. The Iraqi parliament has now voted to oust US troops from the country. I mean, the situation continues to devolve, and it's because You have a child as the leader of this country making decisions that are ignorant, that aren't fact-based, and simply based on impulse and emotion and his feelings. And it's terrifying because people's lives are literally at stake right now, innocent people's lives, because of his terrible decisions.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.